On the planet Zithera, the sky glowed with soft shades of violet and gold, and the cities stretched like glass towers into the clouds. Flying vehicles hummed softly between spires, and citizens moved through the streets with quiet purpose. But, in the grand palace at the center of the capital, a different kind of tension filled the air. Princess Leora stood by a wide window in the royal chamber, staring at the horizon. Her eyes traced the curve of the city below, sparkling with energy and life, yet her heart felt heavy. Today was not just any day, it was the day her future would be decided. Her council had arranged her marriage to Prince Varric of Korath, a neighboring planet, as part of a political treaty to secure peace. Leora had no choice in the matter, and the thought of it made her stomach tighten. Leora sighed and turned to her reflection in the glass. She was young, with hair that shimmered like silver under Zithera's twin suns, and eyes that held the calm of her planet's quiet lakes. People admired her beauty and grace, but those qualities brought her no comfort now. She wanted to live, for herself, not for duty. Princess Leora, called a soft voice from the doorway. It was her personal attendant Miri, a gentle soul who had been with Leora since childhood. The council awaits your presence. It is time. Leora nodded, her lips pressed into a firm line. Thank you, Miri, I will be ready. As she walked through the palace halls, her mind raced. She had been trained for years in diplomacy, law, and leadership. She knew the importance of her role. But knowing and feeling were two different things. Her heart yearned for freedom, yet the weight of responsibility pinned her in place. In another part of the galaxy, on a small blue planet called Earth, a young explorer named Ethan was preparing for a journey that would change his life forever. Ethan was tall and lean, with an endless curiosity for the unknown. For years, he had studied anomalies in the universe, strange energy readings that didn't match any known patterns. Today, his instruments had led him to an uncharted wormhole. Ethan stared at the swirling vortex, excitement and caution battling inside him. The wormhole pulsed with light, and he could see glimpses of another world through it, mountains that shimmered, skies of unfamiliar colors, and buildings that seemed to float. No one on Earth had ever seen anything like it. This is it, he whispered to himself, the adventure I've been waiting for. Without hesitation, he activated his ship's thrusters and moved closer. The wormhole seemed to pull at him, almost inviting him in. With a deep breath, he entered. On Zithera, the council chamber was a place of authority and tradition. High ceilings arched overhead, and the walls were lined with symbols of the royal family's long history. Leora stepped into the room, holding her head high, though her heart raced. Around her, council members in elaborate robes waited. Their expressions were calm but serious. Some showed approval, others concern. Princess Leora, said High Chancellor Orin, his voice echoing softly in the chamber. Today we discuss the union that will secure peace between Zithera and Korath. This is not a decision for debate, it is tradition, and tradition protects our people. Leora took a deep breath. I understand, Chancellor, she replied, her voice steady. But I hope you will also hear me. I must ask if there is no other way to maintain peace without forcing this marriage. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some council members frowned. Tradition had always been absolute. The idea of questioning it was almost unheard of. Princess, said another council member, Lady Solara, the people depend on our guidance. If we waver, chaos could follow. Prince Varric's alliance ensures stability. Leora looked at them all, feeling both frustration and determination. Stability is important, she said softly, but so is freedom. If we bind our leaders to contracts made long ago, we risk losing the trust of those we serve. Peace cannot be built on fear or obligation alone. The council fell silent. Her words were brave, but they carried weight. Tradition was strong, and yet Leora's voice had a power of its own, a reminder that even a princess could think and feel beyond rules. Meanwhile, Ethan emerged from the wormhole into a strange, glowing forest. Plants shimmered with colors he had never seen, and the air carried a faint hum, almost musical. His ship's sensors indicated high life signs nearby. As he stepped out, he saw the distant city of Zithera shining under twin suns. It was breathtaking, and his excitement grew. Ethan did not know that his arrival coincided with one of the most tense moments in Zithera's history. He wandered closer to the city, unaware that he was about to witness a world on the edge of change. Back in the palace, Leora retreated to the garden to think. The gardens of Zithera were legendary, filled with glowing flowers, floating water orbs, and paths lined with crystal stones. She walked slowly, letting the beauty of the world calm her thoughts. Yet even here, she felt the weight of duty pressing down on her. She thought of Prince Varric. She had seen his portraits, listened to his speeches, and learned of his reputation as a strong and ambitious leader. But she did not know him personally. The thought of marrying someone she barely knew filled her with unease. She longed for someone who could see her as she was, not as a tool of politics, but as a person with hopes and dreams. Suddenly, a flash of light caught her attention. Across the garden, a figure appeared, not Zitheran, not alien, human. Leora blinked, unsure if her eyes were playing tricks. The human stepped forward confidently, yet carefully, as if he understood the need for caution in this unfamiliar world. Ethan had finally reached the palace, drawn by curiosity and the faint energy signals emanating from the city. He had never seen anything like Zithera, and he could hardly believe he had actually arrived. His eyes met Leora's, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. Leora felt a strange sense of recognition, as if she had known him in some other life. Ethan, equally awed, realized he was standing in front of someone important, someone who carried both strength and fragility. Neither spoke at first, but the air between them carried unspoken questions and possibilities. "Who are you?" Leora asked finally, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. "I'm Ethan," he replied. "I come from a planet called Earth. I didn't mean to intrude, and I was exploring a wormhole and it led me here. This place, it's incredible." Leora studied him carefully. Humans were rare here, almost myths in some records. Yet this one seemed different, brave, intelligent, and unafraid. Perhaps she thought he was exactly the kind of person she needed to see things differently. "Then you are far from home, Ethan," she said. "And you've arrived at a time of great importance. I have little choice in my life right now, but your presence, perhaps it will change something." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe it already has." At that moment, the palace alarm rang. Guards hurried past them, signaling that the council session was about to begin. Leora knew she had to face her duties, but now, with Ethan at her side, she felt a spark of hope she hadn't felt before. Perhaps freedom was not impossible. Perhaps someone from another world could help her find a way to change her fate, and they walked together toward the council chamber. The twin suns of Zithera cast long shadows over the city. The world was on the edge of a decision that could reshape its future. And somewhere deep inside, Leora felt the stirrings of courage, the kind that comes from seeing life in a new light, from meeting someone who reminds you that the impossible is sometimes only impossible until someone dares to try. For the first time in her life, Princess Leora wondered if her future might belong to her, and not to tradition. And Ethan, standing beside her, wondered what incredible adventures awaited him on this strange, beautiful planet. Together, they stepped into the palace, unaware that this day would mark the beginning of a story that would change both their worlds forever. The council chamber of Zithera was vast and bright. Sunlight poured through massive crystal windows, reflecting off polished floors and casting rainbows across the room. The council members waited in silence, their eyes fixed on Princess Leora as she entered. Beside her unexpectedly stood Ethan. The chamber fell even quieter. A human had never been seen in this council before, and many of the members stiffened with surprise. Leora held her head high, though her heart beat fast. She knew the presence of this outsider could either help her cause or make it worse. High Chancellor Oren's gaze shifted from Leora to Ethan and back again. "Princess Leora," he began, his voice firm, "this is highly irregular. Who is this visitor?" "This is Ethan," Leora said clearly. He comes from another world, but he has knowledge that may help us see new solutions. I asked him to accompany me today. Several council members exchanged murmurs. Lady Solara's eyes narrowed. Your Highness, with respect, this is unwise. How can a human, a creature from another planet, understand the delicate politics of Zithera? Ethan stepped forward, his hands raised slightly in a gesture of peace. I understand you have rules and traditions here. I respect them, but sometimes seeing things from a new perspective can help people make better choices. That is all I hope to offer. Leora gave him a small, grateful nod. She could feel his courage. It reminded her of her own longing for freedom. High Chancellor. Orin leaned back, considering. Very well, he said slowly. You may speak. But remember, this council does not bend easily to outsiders. Ethan swallowed his nervousness and took a deep breath. I've studied politics and human history on my world, he said. I've learned that peace works best when people feel they have choice, not when they are forced into agreements. Forcing someone into marriage for politics may create obedience, but it does not create true peace. It can even cause resentment that lasts generations. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Some were intrigued, others offended. Leora watched Ethan closely. His words were simple, yet they carried a truth that resonated deep within her. Princess Leora spoke next, her voice steady. I agree. Prince Varric is powerful and his people are strong. But the choice to unite must be mutual. If it is forced, then we are only trading one form of control for another. True peace comes from respect and understanding, not obligation. Murmur spread through the chamber. Some council members shifted in their seats, clearly impressed by her boldness. Yet others frowned, fearing rebellion. Lady Solara spoke sharply. Princess, do you think that because a human suggests it, we should abandon centuries of tradition? Alliances have always been arranged in this way. The planets depend on them. Leora's eyes met Solara's, steady and unwavering. Tradition is important, she said, but it is not above the needs of the people or the happiness of the leaders who must live with it. I will not marry someone I do not choose, and I will not see peace built on lies or fear. For a moment, silence reigned. Then from the back of the chamber, a young council member spoke cautiously. Princess, perhaps a trial could be considered. Let us explore options that honor both tradition and choice. Maybe there is a path we have not yet seen. Leora's heart lifted slightly. Ethan gave her a small, encouraging smile. Together, they were planting seeds of change, however cautiously. After the council meeting, Leora and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. The flowers glowed softly under the twin suns, and floating orbs of water drifted lazily through the air. Leora felt the weight of the council's opinions, yet she also felt something new, hope. You were amazing in there, she said quietly. I didn't think anyone could make the council even pause, but you did. Ethan shook his head. You were the one who made them pause. I only spoke the words. You gave them truth, that's what matters. Leora smiled faintly, but her mind was still heavy. Truth is one thing, change is another. The council may listen for a moment, but will they act? And what of Prince Varric? He will not accept being denied? Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. Then we show them another way. We don't just argue. We demonstrate that peace and respect can coexist. We prove that your people and even Prince Varric can see the benefits of choice. Leora nodded. You really believe humans can teach us this? I believe people who care can teach anyone, Ethan said. Even powerful aliens. He smiled, and Leora couldn't help but laugh softly at the thought. That evening, as the twin suns set and painted the skies in hues of violet and orange, Ethan and Leora walked to the city's edge. From there they could see the massive towers of Karath across the space lanes, glittering in the distance. Prince Varric's presence was a reminder of the obstacle ahead. He's strong, Leora said, her voice low. Ambitious. He will not accept being denied, especially if the council allows it. Ethan nodded. Then we must be clever. Strength alone is not always the solution. Sometimes understanding and strategy matter more. Leora looked at him, seeing a human who was fearless, yet wise beyond what she had expected. "You're different from anyone I've met," she said. "Most people here follow rules without question, but you question everything. That is what makes you dangerous and maybe exactly what I need." Ethan smiled, though he felt a little nervous under her gaze. "I hope it's the right kind of dangerous." The next day, Ethan explored the city while Leora attended more council sessions. He marveled at Zithara's technology, floating transport platforms, communication devices that used light beams instead of screens, and energy sources that hummed softly without pollution. Yet he also saw the restrictions, the strict rules that shaped every citizen's life. In the evening, Leora joined him again. She led him to the palace archives, a vast chamber filled with floating scrolls and holographic records. "This is where we can find the truth about the treaty," she explained. "There are records from centuries ago when the marriage was first arranged. Perhaps there is a way to show the council that things can be different now." Together, they studied the archives, comparing ancient laws and treaties. They discovered stories of previous alliances, some that had succeeded, others that had caused conflict. Leora's eyes brightened as she found accounts where leaders had chosen their own paths and still maintained peace. "This is it," she said, pointing to one of the records. "It proves that peace can exist without forced marriage. We can use this to convince the council." Ethan nodded, impressed. "Then we need a plan. Evidence alone is not enough. We have to present it in a way that shows everyone, council, citizens, even Prince Varric, that there is a better way." As they worked late into the night, a bond began to form. Leora realized she could trust him, not just with strategy, but with her fears and hopes. Ethan saw a leader capable of bravery and wisdom, someone willing to fight for what is right even when it is hard. The next morning, as Leora prepared for another council session, Ethan stayed by her side. "Remember," he said softly, "you are not alone in this. We face it together." Leora nodded, feeling strength she had never felt before. "Thank you, Ethan. I don't know what would happen without you." Ethan smiled. "Then don't think about that. Think about what can happen, together." The council meeting that day was tense. Leora presented the records from the archives, showing historical examples where choice and respect had created stronger alliances. She spoke passionately about freedom, leadership, and the importance of genuine peace. Ethan added his perspective, explaining how humans value collaboration and mutual respect. The council listened, some skeptical, some curious. Slowly, the mood shifted. A few members nodded in approval, whispering to each other. Even Lady Solara's expression softened, though her pride prevented her from showing it fully. High Chancellor Oren finally spoke. "Princess Leora, your arguments are compelling. We must consider them carefully. Perhaps there is a way to honor both tradition and choice. We will deliberate." Leora felt a surge of hope. It was not a victory yet, but it was a beginning. With Ethan at her side, she believed that change was possible. Together, they had taken the first step toward challenging centuries of tradition and toward a future where she might finally have a voice in her own life. As the sun set over Zithara, casting golden light across the city, Leora and Ethan walked through the gardens again. The air was filled with the soft glow of flowers, and for the first time in her life, Leora felt that the impossible might just be within reach. "I think we're ready for what comes next," Ethan said quietly. Leora smiled, feeling a warmth she had not known before. "Yes, together we are ready." And with that, a new chapter began, not just for Princess Leora, but for Zithara itself. The morning sun rose over Zithara, spilling golden light across the city's crystal towers. Princess Leora stood on her balcony, staring at the streets below. Citizens moved through the city as usual, unaware of the political storm brewing in the palace. Yet Leora knew the council's deliberations could not last forever. Decisions were coming, and she had to act. Beside her, Ethan reviewed his notes and sketches from the archives. We have the evidence, he said, but the council may not accept it at face value. Tradition is strong here. They will want proof that change will not bring disaster. Leora nodded. Then we must show them, not just tell them. Words alone cannot convince everyone. We need examples, plans, and support from the people themselves. Their first step was to meet with leaders of Zithra's districts. The planet was divided into regions, each governed by a mayor or councillor who reported to the Royal Council. Many of them had long followed tradition without question. Leora and Ethan hoped that if they could show these leaders that choice and freedom could benefit everyone, they might gain allies. Their first visit was to the district of Solara, known for its floating gardens and advanced energy systems. Leora and Ethan entered the council hall, where the district leaders awaited. The room was elegant with floating lights and holographic maps of the region. Princess Leora, said Councillor Jalen, a stern man with a serious expression, you come with ideas that challenge centuries of law. Explain why we should listen to a human outsider and a princess who seeks to reject tradition. Ethan stepped forward. I am not here to overthrow your laws, he said calmly. I am here to offer perspective. Humans have a way of thinking that values choice and cooperation. When people feel respected and free, they work harder, innovate faster, and maintain peace longer. Princess Leora seeks the same for her people. Leora added, our laws exist to protect us, but protection should not come at the cost of happiness or freedom. We can maintain peace with Prince Varric, but only if it is built on mutual respect. If we force obedience, we risk anger and resentment, not stability, the council members murmured among themselves. Some were clearly intrigued, while others seemed unconvinced. Leora knew they needed more than words. They needed proof that this approach could succeed. Then show us, Counselor, Jalen said finally. Show us how this will work in practice. Over the next several days, Leora and Ethan toured the districts, talking with citizens, leaders, and scholars. They organized small demonstrations where citizens could express their opinions freely, something that had rarely happened before. People were cautious at first, but gradually they spoke openly, sharing ideas, concerns, and hopes. Ethan watched with fascination. Humans on Earth valued freedom of speech, but here it had been limited for centuries. Seeing Zithrans experience it brought both excitement and relief to many. Leora observed closely, learning how her people responded to choice and respect. She realized that the citizens themselves could become allies if they were given the chance. To see that change was possible. In the palace, the council began to notice the shift. Reports from the districts showed growing support for Leora's approach. High Chancellor Oren remained cautious, but even he could not ignore the numbers. Some council members began quietly advising him that the princess's plan had merit. Meanwhile, Prince Varric, unaware of the growing support for Leora's cause, prepared for his journey to Zithra. From Korath, he sent messages insisting that the marriage proceed as arranged. Leora knew he would not accept refusal lightly. His arrival would test everything she and Ethan had worked for. One evening, as the twin suns set, Leora and Ethan met in the palace library. They spread out maps and reports, planning their next steps. We have gained support from the districts, Leora said, but Prince Varric's arrival will complicate everything. He is strong, influential, and used to getting what he wants. Ethan nodded. Then we need a strategy. We must show him that forcing the marriage will not help anyone, that peace and respect are stronger than fear or power alone. Leora studied him. Do you really believe that a human can teach an alien prince about respect? Ethan smiled. Not me alone, but together we can show him the strength of choice. That is something no one can ignore. The next day, word came that Prince Varric's fleet was approaching Zithra. The palace prepared for his arrival, and tension filled the air. Citizens watched from the streets as the fleet descended, massive ships casting shadows over the city. Leora felt her heart tighten, but she did not falter. When Varric landed in the palace courtyard, he was a commanding presence. Tall, with sharp features and piercing eyes, he exuded authority and power. Guards surrounded him, and his advisors followed closely. Leora stepped forward, holding her head high as Ethan remained by her side. "Princess Leora," Varric said, his voice deep and commanding, "I have come to claim what is rightfully mine. The treaty is clear. Our alliance depends on this marriage. Do not delay what is necessary for the good of our people." Leora met his gaze. "Prince Varric, I respect you and your people," she said calmly, "but I cannot accept a marriage that is forced. Peace must be built on understanding, not obligation. I ask you to consider another way, one that honors both our worlds and the freedom of those involved." Varric's eyes narrowed. "You speak boldly, Princess. Do you believe that your people will follow you if you defy tradition?" Leora glanced at the citizens gathered in the courtyard. Many looked to her with hope, others with uncertainty. "Some may hesitate," she admitted. "But when people see that respect and choice create stronger bonds than fear, they will understand. I believe our people are capable of seeing what is right." Ethan stepped forward. "Prince Varric, I have traveled from another world to study your civilizations. I have seen the power of cooperation, respect, and freedom. A forced union may achieve obedience, but it cannot build lasting trust. If you seek true peace, you must consider a new path." Varric looked at Ethan, then at Leora. For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed his face. He had expected submission, not defiance, especially from someone so young. Over the next few days, discussions and negotiations filled the palace. Leora presented evidence from the archives, showing examples of past alliances that had succeeded without forced marriages. Citizens and district leaders voiced their support, explaining how choice had strengthened their communities. Even some of Varric's advisors began to question the old ways. Tensions remained high, but gradually, Varric began to see the possibility of a new approach. Leora and Ethan's strategy was working. They were not just challenging tradition, they were creating a vision for the future that could benefit everyone. One evening, after a long day of discussions, Leora and Ethan walked through the palace gardens. The air was cool, filled with the soft glow of floating orbs and the scent of Zethara's flowers. "You did well today," Ethan said. "The council is listening more, and even Varric seems to be considering your points." Leora smiled faintly, though worry lingered in her eyes. "It is not enough to convince him. We must show that this is the right path, not just for me, but for everyone. And we must do it before any mistakes are made." Ethan reached out and touched her hand lightly. "We have started something bigger than ourselves. Change is never easy, but you are leading with courage. That matters more than anything." Leora looked at him, feeling a warmth and strength she had not known before. "Thank you, Ethan. Without you, I would not have found this courage." He shook his head. "No, you had the courage all along. I just helped you see it." The following day, a public assembly was held in the city square. Citizens from across Scythera gathered to witness Leora speak. Floating platforms displayed images of the archives, showing historical examples and lessons. Leora's voice rang clear and strong. "People of Scythera," she said, "our world has always valued peace, strength, and tradition, but tradition alone is not enough. True peace comes from understanding, respect, and choice. We can honor our past while creating a future where all voices matter." The crowd murmured, some nodding, some whispering to neighbors. Ethan stood beside her, quietly supporting her presence. Prince Varric watched from a raised platform, his expression unreadable. For the first time, he seemed to consider her words seriously. The power of one person's courage and the support of another was beginning to change even the hardest hearts. As the sun set over Scythera, painting the city in brilliant colors, Leora felt a sense of determination. She knew the path ahead would be difficult, but she also knew she was not alone. With Ethan by her side, she was ready to challenge tradition, face opposition, and fight for a future built on respect and choice. The journey to change the laws of centuries was only beginning, but the spark had been lit. The next morning, Scythera's sky was a bright mix of violet and gold, yet the palace felt heavy with tension. Princess Leora awoke with a sense of urgency. The council had deliberated for days, but Prince Varric's insistence on the arranged marriage was unyielding. Citizens and district leaders were beginning to take sides, and Leora knew that the moment for decisive action had arrived. Ethan joined her in the gardens, his expression calm but determined. "The council has heard your words," he said, "and some have even begun to support you. But Varric is not convinced. Today we must show him why forcing a marriage will not create true peace." Leora nodded, taking a deep breath. "Then we must act quickly. The longer this drags on, the more resistance will grow, and not just from Varric. Some council members still fear change. They decided to organize a demonstration of what true collaboration could look like." Leora reached out to leaders across the districts, inviting them to bring representatives to the palace. Together they would create a plan showing that cooperation, respect, and choice could achieve goals more efficiently than fear or obligation ever could. As word spread, citizens and leaders arrived at the palace carrying data, ideas, and examples of successful collaboration. Engineers, scholars, and even ordinary citizens contributed their experiences. The palace courtyard buzzed with energy. For the first time in years, ordinary people had a voice that could influence even royalty. Prince Varric arrived with his advisors, his ship landing with a low hum that made the air vibrate. He stepped onto the platform, eyes sharp and calculating. "Princess Leora," he said, his voice carrying over the crowd, "I see you have gathered your people. But do you truly believe that demonstrations and speeches can replace the agreement we have made? Tradition exists for a reason." Leora met his gaze without fear. "I believe that respect and choice are stronger than obligation, Prince Varric. You will see that cooperation is not weakness, and understanding is not surrender. We can achieve peace in ways that honor both our worlds." Varric's jaw tightened. "Words alone will not convince me." Ethan stepped forward. "Then let actions speak," he said. "We will show you how collaboration works. Look around you. These people are ready to contribute. They have ideas, solutions, and creativity. If we work together, we can solve problems that force and fear could never fix." Leora took Ethan's hand briefly, feeling a spark of courage and support. "We can start with the energy crisis in the Solera district," she said, pointing to the maps and data gathered by citizens. "Using your methods, Varric, and combining them with Zitharan technology, we can stabilize the energy supply in a fraction of the time it would take by traditional methods." Varric studied the data, skeptical but intrigued. He watched as engineers, scholars, and citizens worked together to set up demonstrations. Machines whirred to life, holograms displayed calculations, and even ordinary citizens operated systems they had never touched before. Ethan guided the processes, explaining the principles behind each step. Slowly, the courtyard filled with a sense of hope and possibility. Leora walked among the participants, speaking with them, encouraging them, showing that leadership was not about power but about guidance and respect. Varric's expression softened slightly. He was not a man to change easily, yet he could not ignore the results. By the afternoon, the demonstration was complete. The energy system stabilized faster than any Zitharan method alone could have achieved. Citizens cheered, and council members nodded in approval. Even some of Varric's advisors whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. High Chancellor Oren stepped forward, addressing both the princess and the prince. "Princess Leora, Prince Varric, this demonstration has shown remarkable results. Perhaps there is merit in this approach. We must reconsider how we achieve peace and stability." Varric looked at Leora, his eyes meeting hers with a mixture of surprise and respect. "You have shown me something I did not expect," he admitted. "Perhaps there is a way to honor both our people without enforcing the marriage." Leora's heart raced, but she remained composed. "It is not about avoiding responsibility," she said softly. "It is about leading in a way that respects all those we serve." Ethan nodded beside her. "Strength is not measured by control or fear. True strength is measured by cooperation, understanding, and courage to change." The council members murmured their agreement, and the atmosphere began to shift. Leora knew this was a turning point, not just for the marriage or for Varek's opinion, but for the entire culture of Zithera. Tradition had been challenged, and the possibility of a new future had begun to take shape. Yet, even as hope grew, danger lurked in the shadows. Not all council members supported Leora's vision. Some were quietly plotting to ensure that tradition remained intact, fearful that any change would undermine their authority. Leora and Ethan had to remain vigilant, for those who opposed them would not act openly, but their influence could be dangerous. That evening, Leora and Ethan walked through the palace gardens once more. The glowing flowers and floating water orbs created an almost magical atmosphere, but the weight of responsibility was heavy. "You have done more than I ever imagined possible," Ethan said. "You have challenged centuries of law, inspired citizens, and made even Prince Varek pause to reconsider. That is remarkable." Leora smiled faintly, but her mind was still racing. "It is not enough. Change takes time, and some people will resist until the very end. We must prepare for opposition, and we must strengthen our support." Ethan nodded. "We can do that. Together, we can show that respect and choice are not weakness. They are power. And power that is shared builds loyalty, not fear." Over the next few days, Leora and Ethan focused on diplomacy and education. They visited schools, workshops, and community centers, speaking with citizens about the importance of choice, collaboration, and understanding. Their presence inspired a sense of possibility in the people, and slowly, the culture began to shift. Citizens began discussing solutions to problems, offering ideas, and even proposing alliances that had never been considered. Prince Varek observed quietly, still wary, yet increasingly impressed. He saw that Leora's approach was not chaotic, as he had feared, but organized, thoughtful, and effective. For the first time, he questioned whether forcing the marriage was truly necessary. However, resistance remained. Lady Solara and a few council members met in secret, plotting to undermine Leora's influence. They whispered warnings to Varek, suggesting that the princess's popularity was dangerous, that her ideas threatened the stability of Zithera. Varek listened, but he also noticed the loyalty of the people and the effectiveness of the demonstrations. He began to understand that Leora's approach had merit, and that leadership could be measured not by fear or control, but by inspiration and respect. One evening, a confrontation occurred in the council chambers. Lady Solara accused Leora of trying to overthrow tradition and questioned Ethan's presence. The room became tense, voices raised, and for a moment it seemed that the fragile balance they had created might collapse. Leora stood tall. "I am not overthrowing tradition," she said firmly. "I am improving it. Our traditions exist to protect people, not to bind them against their will. Respect, understanding, and choice strengthen our society. Fear and obligation weaken it. Ethan is here as a friend and advisor, offering perspective. His knowledge has helped us see what is possible." The council fell silent. Even Lady Solara could not argue with the evidence, nor with the loyalty of the citizens who had supported Leora's efforts. High Chancellor Oren spoke, his voice steady. "Princess Leora has shown remarkable courage and wisdom. The council will consider her proposals seriously. Change is never easy, but perhaps it is time to consider a new path for Zithera." Varek remained silent, but his eyes softened. He realized that Leora's vision was not weakness but strength. It required courage, intelligence, and the ability to inspire loyalty without fear. That night, Leora and Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of Zithera shimmered like stars and the air was filled with possibility. "We have taken the first big step," Ethan said. "The council and even Varek are starting to see your vision. But the real challenge will come when decisions must be made. There will be pressure and some will resist to the end." Leora nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "Then we face it together. I have learned that courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite it. And with you by my side, I feel ready for whatever comes next." Ethan smiled. We will face it together, and no matter what happens, we will not give up. Scythera deserves a future built on respect, understanding, and choice. The twin moons of Scythera rose, casting soft silver light over the city. Leora felt a sense of hope stronger than ever before. She had begun to challenge tradition, inspire her people, and even influence Prince Varric. The turning point had come, and the path forward was clearer, though still fraught with challenges. With courage, wisdom, and support, Princess Leora and Ethan were ready to continue their fight for freedom, for choice, and for a future where peace could truly belong to everyone. The morning air on Scythera was crisp, carrying the scent of glowing flowers from the palace gardens. Princess Leora stood on the balcony, looking out over the city she had come to love even more deeply than before. Citizens were already gathering in the palace square, curious and hopeful. Today was the day when decisions would be made, not by fear, not by tradition alone, but by the voice of reason, courage, and choice. Ethan joined her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Today is the day, Leora. The council, the citizens, and even Prince Varric will see what we've built. The question now is, can they embrace it? Leora took a deep breath. They will have to. We have shown them the strength of collaboration, the power of choice, and the value of respect. Today we see if that is enough. Down in the courtyard, Prince Varric arrived with a smaller escort than before. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of authority and curiosity. He had spent days observing the demonstrations, listening to citizens, and watching Leora's leadership in action. Even he could not ignore the undeniable results and growing support for the princess's approach. High Chancellor Oren called the council meeting to order in the Grand Chamber. Leora and Ethan entered together, their steps steady. The council members watched them closely. Many faces reflected uncertainty, some fear, and others cautious hope. Princess Leora, Varric said as they approached the center of the chamber, you have shown determination, skill, and courage. But do you truly believe that your ideas can sustain the alliance between our planets? Leora met his gaze without hesitation. I do, she replied firmly. True alliances are not built on obligation, but on respect. Our worlds can work together, not because one ruler commands it, but because both sides choose to collaborate. That is the strength of our future. A murmur spread through the chamber. Even the most skeptical council members listened closely. Leora's voice carried conviction and clarity, the words of a leader who had faced fear and uncertainty and refused to back down. Ethan stepped forward. Prince Varric, I have come from another world to learn, not to command. But I have seen the results of respect and choice. Forcing a marriage may bring obedience, but it cannot build lasting trust or genuine cooperation. Look at what Princess Leora has achieved with her citizens. The strength of her leadership is in her ability to inspire, not to demand. Varric's eyes shifted, observing the council members and citizens gathered around. He saw loyalty, energy, and innovation, results that could not be ignored. He also saw Leora's unwavering confidence, a quiet strength that commanded respect, without fear. I see, he said slowly. Perhaps I have underestimated what leadership can mean. It is not enough to demand, one must inspire. You have proven this, Princess. The chamber remained tense. Lady Solara, still wary, spoke sharply. Prince Varric, while this may appear impressive, how can we be sure that rejecting the marriage will not endanger our worlds? Tradition exists to protect us. Leora stepped forward calmly. Lady Solara, tradition exists to guide us, not to imprison us. Protection comes from understanding, not obligation. The evidence shows that our citizens, given the opportunity, can cooperate, innovate, and maintain stability. We are stronger together when we respect choice. Council members looked at one another, some nodding, some whispering. The mood began to shift. Leora's words had planted seeds of hope and courage. Even those who feared change began to consider the possibilities of a future built on respect and collaboration. High Chancellor Oren rose, his expression solemn but thoughtful. Princess Leora, your vision and actions have shown the Council a new way forward. The choice of leaders and the consent of the people are the pillars of lasting peace. The Council recognizes that your proposal may bring a stronger and more resilient future for Scythera. A collective murmur of approval swept through the chamber. Citizens and council members alike felt the weight of history in the making. Leora's heart swelled, but she remained composed, knowing the final challenge was yet to come. Prince Varric stepped closer. Princess, I have seen your strength, your intelligence, and your courage. I respect your leadership, and I am willing to reconsider the terms of our alliance. If choice and respect are what you seek, then I will honor them. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, a sense of relief and hope washed over everyone. Leora had achieved what many had thought impossible. She had influenced a powerful prince and shown that peace could be built without force. Lady Solara, though still cautious, spoke quietly. Perhaps this is indeed a new way forward. High Chancellor Oren nodded. We shall amend the treaty. The marriage will no longer be mandatory. Alliances will now be formed on mutual respect and understanding, not obligation. This is a historic moment for Scythera. The citizens erupted in applause, their voices echoing through the palace. Leora smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility lift slightly. For the first time, she realized that leadership was not about control. It was about vision, courage, and the ability to inspire others to choose the right path. Ethan stepped forward, standing beside her. You have done something remarkable, Leora. Not just for your people, but for your world. You have changed history today. Leora looked at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. We did it together, Ethan. Without your perspective, your courage, and your support, I would not have been able to face all of this. Prince Varric, observing quietly, finally spoke with a small smile. Princess Leora, you have shown me that leadership is not about power alone. It is about understanding, respect, and courage. I will respect your decision and work with your people in a spirit of cooperation. Perhaps we can build a stronger alliance than tradition ever imagined. The city outside the palace was alive with celebration. Citizens cheered, banners waved, and for the first time, freedom and choice were celebrated as much as tradition and law. Leora stood on the balcony with Ethan, watching the people she had fought to inspire. You did it, Ethan said softly. The council, the citizens, even Varric, they all listened. You changed their hearts and minds. Leora smiled, feeling a mix of relief and pride. It is only the beginning. Change will take time, but today we have proven that courage and respect can create a new path. A path where the future belongs to those who choose it, not just to tradition. Over the next days, Leora worked with the council to implement new policies that encouraged collaboration and citizen participation. Education, technology, and governance were approached with fresh ideas and perspectives. Citizens who had once felt voiceless now had platforms to contribute, innovate, and influence decisions. Prince Varric, though initially distant, began working alongside Leora and her council, learning to respect her leadership and her people's choices. Ethan continued to support her, bridging human ideas with Scytheran technology and philosophy. Together, they formed a team that inspired the entire planet. One evening, as twin moons rose over Scythera, Leora and Ethan stood on the palace balcony once more. The city shimmered beneath them, alive with possibilities. Do you ever think about how different everything would have been if I hadn't arrived? Ethan asked. Leora laughed softly. I think the world has a way of bringing the right people to the right place at the right time. Perhaps you were meant to see this world just as I was meant to lead it differently. Ethan smiled. I'm glad I was here, and I'm glad I was here with you. Leora felt a warmth in her heart she had never known before. And I am glad you were. You reminded me that courage is not just about fighting. It is about inspiring, supporting, and believing in what is possible. From the city below, the citizens continued to celebrate. The palace glowed in the light of innovation and hope, and Zithra's twin moons cast silver light over the towers. Leora knew that challenges would come, but now she understood the true power of leadership. It was not just her voice or the laws of her world. It was the courage to act with respect, wisdom, and the support of those who shared her vision. As she looked at Ethan, and then at the glowing city, Leora felt a sense of fulfillment. She had faced fear, challenged tradition, and inspired change. Together, they had created a world where choice, respect, and courage could guide the future. And in that moment, Princess Leora knew that a new era had begun, not just for herself, or for Zithra, or even for the alliance with Prince Varric, but for all those who believed that the future could be shaped by courage, understanding, and the freedom to choose. For the first time, she felt that her life was truly her own, and that the future was a world of endless possibilities.